Now, tributes are being paid to world marathon record holder Kelvin Kiptum, who has died in a car crash along with his coach. Joining me now from Devon is the author of Running with the Kenyans, Adharanand Finn. Thank you very much for being with us. And it's just the most awful tragedy, such a young talent. Just try and explain how good he was.
Yeah, I mean, what's scary is that he was only just beginning, and that's the real tragedy of it. He only ran his first marathon just over a year ago in Valencia. He ran this incredible time. The world sat up, took notice. Then he came to London. He won the London Marathon in a crazy course record, the second fastest time ever at that point. And then he won the Chicago Marathon and broke the world record. But none of this was done with any kind of. It just seemed to do it without too much effort. He crossed the line with a big smile on his face. He just had a way of running, a way of turning it on. He wasn't particularly aiming for the world record. He just kind of did it. And it was a kind of effortlessness. It sort of reminded me a little bit of when Usain Bolt first appeared. And it was almost like a paradigm shift. He suddenly made everybody else look ordinary. And Kiptum has done that.
Yeah, and I gather he was already looking at a sub-2-hour marathon. Is that right?
Yeah, so the sub-2-hour marathon was done by the great Eliud Kipchoge, but in a kind of controlled race, not in a real race. So nobody had done it in a real race. And Kelvin Kiptum is so good that when he said there was a race coming up in Rotterdam in April, he said, I'm going to break the 2-hour marathon, the 2-hour time for the marathon. And he's that good that nobody called him out on it. Nobody said, oh, you're being a bit arrogant, you're being a bit, that's crazy. I mean, I've spoken to runners, they said, I'm sure he would have done it. He was that good. And
right.
The sky was the limit. And then the Olympics was coming up as well. So
yeah,
it was a lot of excitement around him, unusual amount.
So try and explain what it was. I mean, what made him, in your view, so good? Yeah,
it's difficult to say because, everybody's trying their hardest. Everybody's working hard. All the athletes will put it down to hard work. I think he was just a once-in-a-generation talent in the way that Usain Bolt was. You can look at the training, and he did have an unusual style of training, that he did a lot of high mileage. But there's lots of other runners who have tried that in the past, and it hasn't had this impact. But I think he was just the ease with which he would break away from a field of the best runners in the world just meant there was something different about him, and I think it was just an extreme talent. I don't think there's any other. I mean, obviously, combined talent has to be combined with hard work and good training and smart training and everything else. But he just stood out completely.
Yeah, I was going to ask you just finally how he'll be remembered, but look, he's so young, and you've just explained why he'll be remembered. But look, you know about Kenyan runners, and this guy came from a long line of very successful and very good Kenyan athletes. Just in 30 seconds, that's hopeful. You wrote a whole book on it. But just try and explain why these Kenyans are so good at long-distance running.
Yeah, I mean, I did write a whole book on it, but it's kind of there's all these natural advantages where they live. They live at high altitude. It's perfect training territory. People go there from the UK, from Europe to train. But you combine that with this running culture that has grown up. It's the biggest thing. It's the only thing that's going on there. There's thousands and thousands of athletes training together, working together. These huge groups. You turn up in the morning, there's huge groups of athletes training, all at this incredible high standard. And whoever's going to come out at the top of that is just going to be a phenomenal athlete, because it's this incredible numbers of people doing it.
And Kelvin was clearly one, very special by the sounds of it. But listen, Adharanand, thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to